Twitter, mainly Facebook. Now, if you're on Facebook, make sure you're following me on YouTube and Rumble, Speechless with Kev Ferris, because I've been kicked off of Facebook before for unknown reasons. So make sure you guys are all ready to and raring to go because this is going to be a great interview. Okay, I'm coming on the radio here soon. Hey, Bloomington Normal and the rest of the world. I am your host, Kev Ferris, and I hope you're speechless today, everybody, because I have a big interview coming up. But to start the show, everybody, what are we talking about today? We're talking about protecting women's sports with Riley Gaines, who is speechless. We're talking about how Trump was indicted in, once again, the biggest instance of political theater in modern history. And then we got a lot more to cover in this 2-hour show. Speechless, I'm your host, Kev Ferris. Welcome back to Speechless. Like I said, I am your host, Kev Ferris. And today, last week, I had the opportunity to sit down with a wonderful girl by the name of Riley Gaines. For those of you that do not know, Riley Gaines is a 12-time All-American NCAA swimmer from the University of Kentucky. She has since become a major force in the Protect Women's Sports movement as she tied Leah Thomas, formerly William Thomas, transgender athlete Leah Thomas from Penn State, tied him in 5th place last year at the 2022 NCAA Swimming Championships. But before I get to all that, I want to also give a big shout out. Today's episode is brought to you by Paul Garcia Productions. Out of Normal, Illinois, Paul Garcia Productions creates stunning and effective videos and commercials for Central Illinois businesses. Visit Paul Garcia Productions to learn more and help your business get more business. Okay, so let's start off, everybody. 40 years ago, Title IX was passed to, among other things, afford women the same athletic opportunities as men in school. 40 years ago, feminists praised this decision, as any logical being would, because they were able to see that in the majority of athletics, generally, biological men would have an inherent advantage. But that was 40 years ago, when common sense was still common. Where did it go? No more common sense. Today, however, those same feminists partnering with the alphabet mafia wish to destroy the very concept of equality and fairness by pushing an agenda that has no basis in objective truth. The idea that men can actually become women and women become men, Title IX and its benefits are quickly disappearing. Men that practically look like Macho Man Randy Savage. You guys know Randy Savage? Yeah, men that practically look like him and were relatively mediocre when competing against biological men. All they have to do, they realize that they can dominate women's sports by simply putting on a sports bra and calling you transphobic if you try to object to it. One of the most hot button issues today is men competing in women's sports. Male MMA fighters bashing the skulls of females. Real women losing scholarships and records to biological men. Most notably, the less than impressive Penn State swimmer William Thomas, now breaking national records and appearing on ESPN documentaries, competing as Leah Thomas. This is an argument I never thought I'd be having. But alas, equality, women's safety, and objective truth are at stake. So here we are. But who am I to be the leader of this discussion? I'm a kind of in shape 5'8" white dude that hasn't played a sport competitively since high school. No, we need other people. And so that's why, like I said, and like a lot of you have been waiting for, I talked to Riley Gaines this last week in a 35-minute interview. I'm going to, I've cut it up a little bit for radio so that we can make sure that the full interview is heard on the radio. If you are interested in seeing the whole video, unedited and uncut, everything like that, that is, will be on my YouTube channel, Speeches with Kev Ferris, at 4 p.m. after we're done with it here on the radio. So here is that interview. Gonna press play here, just getting it all set up, everybody, so you can watch it on Facebook Live, YouTube, Rumble, everywhere like that. Again, this is Riley Gaines, 12-time All-American NCAA swimmer turned activist. Here she is.
Hey guys,
Oh, I got it muted there. Just going to unmute. There we go.
I'm Riley Gaines and I'm speechless.
My guest today made waves after she tied with Leah Thomas for 5th place in the 200-yard freestyle at the 2022 NCAA championship meet. Since then, she's taken a stand highlighting the need to protect women's sports and has made a name for herself as a leader within the conservative movement. Her advocacy has driven her to make many appearances on national news networks and speak on college campuses. A woman that frankly has more balls than any man I know, Riley Gaines, is here today, everybody, and she is speechless. Riley, thank you so much for joining me.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
Appreciate it. Well, I know that you have many other places you could be talking to right now, but I want to make sure that everybody knows just who Riley Gaines is. Not they should already know, honestly, at this point. But let's dive in right from the beginning. So you started swimming at the age of 4.
I did. Yes. And so I graduated when I was 22. And so I dedicated 18 years of my life to my sport, which of course includes, your sport specific training, your swimming, but it also includes weightlifting, your diet, your sleep schedule, your physical rehabilitation, not to mention the social sacrifices. You don't get to go to prom. You don't get to come home for Christmas. You don't get to come home when you're in college. You don't get to come home for summer. We were there every single day, training 6 hours a day, swimming 10 miles a day. It's relatively miserable, but of course, the outcomes are always worth it, which is why we do it.
Absolutely. And your outcomes were actually kind of hindered a little bit because men started competing in women's sports. And so when was like the first time you started to notice that people of the opposite gender were competing in the sport, like a man competing in women's sports?
Really the first time this became relevant to me, especially in my world of swimming, we saw a case of this. It was a female, then transitioning, goes by Skylar Baylor, Skylar Baylor, now competes with the men, and this happened at Harvard. And so I saw this, and I, of course, didn't necessarily support it. But I thought, this is a woman competing with the man. There's no threat here. But it never once occurred to me that this could go the other way and we would be under threat. It just seemed out of realm. And even if it were to happen, I thought there would be governing bodies in place that wouldn't allow it to happen.
You would think, right?
You would think. And so I didn't become aware of this happening the other way around, really, until I was directly impacted by it.
Yeah.
I became aware of this swimmer, Leah Thomas, about November of my senior year. So November of 2021 was the first time that it was brought to my attention that there was a male competing against the women, especially at a level as high as we were competing.
Yeah, and the culmination of so your senior year of college, the culmination of all that work, 18 years of hard work, comes down to the NCAA championships, in which you were in the same race as William Thomas, Leah Thomas. And as you can see, I'm pulling it up on screen. This is the NCAA, the governing body that's supposed to be protecting you as a swimmer. And you were obviously at this race, but I want to show everybody a little bit of this so that they can kind of understand where you were at physically, so we can talk about where your head was at. So starting off, everybody, here is the beginning of the race in which Leah and Riley actually tied. Here's that.
Take your mark. Rux will go out for it. Ivy will go out for it. They may be 2 seconds ahead of Leah Thomas in lane number 5. They have the speed to be able to really jump on this first 100. This is going to be a lot tighter of a race.
So from the beginning, the announcers from the NCAA were obviously very enamored with Leah Thomas, despite the fact that she, whatever, gets further, it stays around 4th, 5th, 6th, almost the entire race. Where was your head at walking up to the block, getting on, take your mark, go? What were you thinking?
Really, first, before anything, it was a distraction. Swimming is, of course, a lot physical. There's a lot of physical that goes into it, but just like a lot of sports, there's a lot of mental that goes into it too. And so I can't even tell you the mental distraction, the mental hindrance. One, the locker room, that played on our mental toll.
I wanted to, that was another, and I want to let you keep going, but that was one thing I wanted to get into at some point. So Leah was in the same locker room as all the other women.
Yes. Yes. We were not forewarned. We were not told. The only time we became aware that we would be sharing a locker room with Thomas was when we had to sit there and watch this 6'4" man disrobe and show his male parts. That's how we became aware that that's the situation we would be in. It felt like betrayal, belittlement. Of course, it's awkward, embarrassing, uncomfortable. That to me was really worse than the competition piece.
If anyone else were, if I were to do something like that, it'd be criminal. I would get arrested on the spot.
Now all you have to do is say you're a woman, and it's not only is it just happening, it's encouraged. It's
exactly.
celebrated.
Exactly. What else was going through your head though, on top of that?
On top of the mental distraction and sense of, wondering of what this outcome would look like, I really felt like I was going into the race with my hands tied behind my back, and not because of the women I was competing against. I knew these women just like myself. We all had a chance to win that national title. We'd all trained. We'd all gone through things that only women go through when it comes to being a woman and what that looks like, especially in regards to training at that level. So that to me, and if I had gotten beaten by them, which I did get beat by some of the girls in that heat, of course, that's not something that frustrates me. I'm proud of those girls. I'm proud of myself for finishing top 5 in the country. Yeah. That's a huge honor. But in regards to competing against a male, of course, you feel like your hands are tied behind your back. You're going into this race with an understanding that there's an inherent unfair advantage, that no matter the training, no matter anything you do, nothing you do will overcome the advantage that Thomas has.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I wanted to get to. So I'm going to play just now the end of the race, because I thought this was interesting as well. Seeing you guys tie, I mean, obviously a lot of people were looking at Miss Ruck, Taylor Ruck, because she won the race. But coming to the end of it, you guys both tied.
Stanford's Taylor Ruck has twice been an NCAA runner-up individually. Ruck has led the entire way, and in the 200-yard freestyle, it's a wire-to-wire win for Taylor Ruck. Isabel Ivy takes.
And then we see, obviously, you in lane 1 and Thomas in lane 5 come both in right there in neck and neck. It was, I believe you guys ended at 1:43.40 was your time, which is incredibly impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was, first of all, watching that again, I remember how badly that hurt. That was not a best time for me. That was, I had added some time, but it definitely was not a best time for Thomas. Thomas added nearly 2 seconds, which in swimming, 2 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, of course, but in swimming, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so, of course, what's going through my head, I touch the wall, I look at the scoreboard, and I see 5 by my name, indicating I got 5th, which I was honored. I was, that's great. I, of course, knew I could do better, but whatever. It was my last race as a collegiate swimmer. I was glad to be done. And I look at Thomas's name. Actually, before I even looked at my own name, I looked at Thomas's name and I saw the 5. And then I saw my 5 and I looked at my teammates and their jaws were dropped on the side of the pool. And I'm just thinking to myself, there's no way we tied. There's no way. I had already made up my mind that I wasn't going to get on the podium. That was going to be my form of protest. I wanted to swim my race. I didn't think it was fair for me to not swim my last collegiate race ever in terms of boycotting and protesting. So I thought to myself, I won't get on the podium. But now these thoughts are going on in my head, behind the scenes, okay, now if I don't get on the podium, there's not even an empty spot because we have to share the freaking podium.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. It was this a jumbled mix of emotions, all in a short span of time.
Absolutely. And I mean, it seems incredibly unfair. But one thing I do want to ask is, you mentioned the biological advantage earlier. There are some out there that I've seen that say, well, Leah Thomas came in 5th. She came in 5th. So how could she have a biological advantage? She didn't even win. What would you have to say to people that say things like that?
It's, first of all, I'm not one for speculation. Everything that I say, I try to be well versed on. I try to research. I try to consider different perspectives, but I can wholeheartedly say that Thomas didn't try. This was all part of a bigger picture. Thomas, the first day, wins the national title, beating Olympians, American record holders by body lengths. The second day gets fifth. The third day in the 100 freestyle qualifies top 8 in the morning, which I want to reiterate, top 8 in the country is a phenomenal achievement. But that night dives in this final heat, and once you've secured that top 8 spot in the morning, you are finishing top 8 in the nation, regardless of what time you go. Thomas dives in and literally looks like he doesn't know how to swim. Places 8th. This was sending a message that trans women can compete with women and win, but not always dominate.
So do you think, so are you kind of saying that maybe, and obviously it's not confirmed, that Leah kind of threw the race a little bit and waited?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were competing against someone who was actively giving their second best,
Mm-hmm.
which again, in a sport where we've dedicated our entire lives, especially those 4 collegiate years, to merely shave 100ths of a second off, merely 100ths. We're going against someone who is actively giving their second best. That's what that is.
That's crazy. How do other swimmers feel in this? Taylor Rock and I know in that NCAA video that I was showing, Taylor like congratulates Leah afterwards. Did everybody feel supportive of this, or was there or did they feel almost pushed into being supportive, other in fear? So everybody, that is the beginning of my Riley Gaines interview. Everybody be ready for the next part of that. I am streaming live. Not only I am on the radio and you're probably listening to me there, but I am also on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble. Going to be providing some commentary in the and get into some comments here in the during the breaks. Yes, this interview is not live. Sundays are not easy days to get, especially somebody. So Riley Gaines is a national personality, has been on Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, Sean Hannity, many different national shows. She's currently actually at the Young Women's Leadership Conference in for Turning Point USA in Texas, speaking to a great group of young ladies about these very issues. So if you want that full unedited and unabridged version of the interview, it will be on my YouTube at 4 p.m., but we are still going to keep doing it through after this next break. Do not worry, everybody. We will get more of the Riley Gaines interview when we come back. In the meantime, everybody, I hope you're speechless. We'll be back with more news on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, everybody on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, everywhere, Rumble. I know it might stink that I got to cut it off on there, but we're airing this on the radio. Like I said, the full interview will be posted, obviously with no interruptions, nothing like that, at 4 p.m. on my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Ferris. Then I'll also make sure that it gets pumped out to Facebook and Twitter and Rumble, everything like that. So you can make sure you see the full interview if you missed even a minute of it. But stick with me through the break, and let's get, I see some comments here and everything I'm getting to. Hey, Raven. Hey, Mo's Gaming. How you guys doing? It's great to see you guys, and I hope a lot of you guys are here. I know that many on YouTube were sent here for Modern Renaissance Man stuff. This is a unconventional show for me, like I said, with a pre-recorded interview. I do like to do, obviously, I would much rather have live stuff done, but this is a national activist that has booked practically to the minute, and for her to be able to take 30-40 minutes out of her day on last Tuesday, it was an amazing experience. And she is, I will tell you, she's one of the most down-to-earth people that I've ever met. I got to be honest, one of the most down-to-earth people I've ever met. She is, like I said, in a national spotlight. People pay money to go see her speak places, and she would still take the time to talk to me. So do not worry, we will be back with more of that on after this break on the radio. If you have questions, comments, concerns, always make sure you are putting them into the comment section, and I will get to them. It's crazy to hear about. I think a big one was the fact that Leah William Thomas used the same locker room as all these girls, and they were just kind of expected to go along with it. You know, how crazy is that? They're just expected to go along with it. So I think we need this is an interesting take. I think we need to stop referring to the individual who claims to be Leah Thomas and call him William Thomas. You know, I agree. I go back and forth with Leah, William, whatever, because it's not, I don't really care. It's not about the name to me. It's about the assault that we have on, like I said at the beginning, Title IX, on women's sports, on the entire idea of gender and objective truth, period. That's what it's all about. My good friend Mike Haig. I'm live for once. Yes, you are catching me live. Thanks, Mike. Mike is a amazing farmer. I'm sure he's really happy today. All of our farmers in Illinois are probably pretty happy today because it's raining. And we have had a very dry season right now in Illinois. And so the rain is making it a billion times better because it's been so dry. But everybody, we will be back soon with more of the Leah Thomas interview for the next segment. That'll be in about 10 to 15 seconds here. I got to intro it again on the radio. This is how radio works. You guys are getting an insight on how it is in a radio station. Because people are only listening to the radio for as long as they're in their car for 10, 12 minutes as they're driving to something. So I'm coming back here now live. Hey, Bloomington Normal. Welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I am your host, Kev, and you guys probably knew I've been posting it all over Facebook, making sure everybody knows that I had the chance to sit down with 12-time All-American NCAA swimmer Riley Gaines, who faced off against a biological man in the 2022 NCAA swimming championships for the 200 freestyle. They actually got the exact same time for 5th place in that race. And so I sat down with her for over 35 minutes last Tuesday talking to her. I'm streaming it live. The full interview, unedited, fully unabridged, everything like that will be posted onto my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Ferris, last name P-H-A-R-E-S. You can go like, subscribe, and see that full interview at 4 p.m. unabridged. But I am going to keep playing it for you here on the radio. Again, Riley Gaines, 12-time All-American swimmer, incredibly smart, down-to-earth girl, sat down with me to talk. I was just her and I were talking about, obviously, William Thomas, the biological male, who went against her. Then she also gets into her activism and her endorsement of Ron DeSantis for president. So we're going to keep going with that interview right now. So are you kind of saying that maybe, and obviously it's not confirmed, that Leah kind of threw the race a little bit and waited?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were competing against someone who was actively giving their second best,
Mm-hmm.
which again, in a sport where we've dedicated our entire lives, especially those 4 collegiate years, to merely shave 1/100th of a second off, merely 1/100th. We're going against someone who is actively giving their second best. That's what that is.
That's crazy. How do other swimmers feel in this? Taylor Rock and I know in that NCAA video that I was showing, Taylor congratulates Leah afterwards. Did everybody feel supportive of this, or or did they feel almost pushed into being supportive, in fears that they'd be called transphobic or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's that. Of course, I can't speak for every single person, but I know a lot of girls in that heat who I have had conversations with feel the exact same way I do. I won't say their names because it's not my place to out them in that way, but the overwhelming majority of girls at that competition, the overwhelming majority of people in this country, even the overwhelming majority of the Democratic Party, but in regards to that competition, the overwhelming majority of us knew that was wrong. We knew that we shouldn't have to share that locker room with the man. We knew the silencing that we were facing was wrong. But again, these girls were scared of the retaliation. They were fearful. There was actually an interview just released yesterday. Her name is Paula Scanlon with Matt Walsh. I highly encourage everyone to go listen to it because she does a good job depicting of what these universities and these athletic departments and these institutions are doing to really silence these girls.
Yeah, I had a chance actually to watch that, and I was wondering, because she implicates you. She basically thanks you in that video, saying that you were part of her inspiration for wanting to come forward. Obviously, she was mentioned anonymously, or was interviewed anonymously for Matt Walsh's highly successful What Is a Woman. How does it feel to know that there are other people like Paula coming out and saying that you were an inspiration for them?
This is never something I could have wanted for myself. This is never something that I could have been equipped for. This is something that I was entirely thrusted into. Mm-hmm. And so to be a voice.
Very humbling words from Riley Gaines. We will get back to more of that. Obviously, we are live here on Cities 92.9. So I am coming in and interrupting the interview, but we will get to the full interview. And if you are interested in watching it, uncut, unabridged at 4 p.m. today, it will be on my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Ferris. Totally no, I'm not cutting in at all during that one, but I do appreciate everybody who is tuning in on the radio and on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, everything like that. I'm going to get to some comments during the break here, but we will be right back to hear just more how Riley Gaines is dealing with being thrust into the spotlight as an activist against biological men in women's sports. Yep, we will get to all of that and more. We will be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.
What is going on, good people? Hope you guys are all doing good out there. Let me just throw this out there real quick to I don't know who the comment is well, I do know who the comment is, but to the individual that made a comment and said, Ty, you've changed, I left a response on there that said, how so? I don't know what you're referring to. I don't know if you're saying it's good. I don't know if you're saying that it's bad, but to go back and highlight your comment here, Team Forward says, Ty, you've changed. And why don't you expound upon that if you're still here? Go ahead and leave it in the comment section. So otherwise, I really don't have anything to say on that, but we're going to get back to this interview, guys. And again, this is the radio station that I do on Saturdays from 3 to 5. It's Cities 92.9 and News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. And my show, the spot that I have on there is called Cancel This. That's the name of my show, if you guys were tuning in yesterday. So appreciate you guys all being here. Don't forget to go check out Kev's channel. It's called Speechless with Kev Ferris. He's over there on YouTube. I'm putting the link in there right now. Go over there and check out his channel. Subscribe to him. You know, young man is doing good things out there, being really good at what he does. Very brave, very conservative, Christian man, as you can see. And we're going to get back to this interview with Riley Gaines. I appreciate you guys all being here, all right? Make sure y'all hit that like button, if you would, please, all right? So we're going to get back to this, folks. Give me a second to pull it up.
William Thomas is a biological man. Even people that have that agree with the trans ideology, some of them, not all of them, some of them are too far gone, but even some people that agree with that ideology even recognize that there is such thing as biological sex, that there are biological men. Wake up, heckler. Jeez. But yes, thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back with some more of that interview coming up here soon. We're only just getting started too. We're just getting started with that. I still got 20 more minutes in that interview. So I think we're going to get to a lot of it in the next big segment. And then we'll have, in the second hour, I will be talking about the Trump indictment a little bit and maybe bringing on some guests too. If anybody's interested, I can maybe do that in the second hour, talk a little bit more about it. But thank you guys always for tuning in. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. You guys are the best. I'm so thankful to have such amazing people behind me. I got a text today from a good friend, my buddy Brett, who does a lot of work in activism and political activism too. And he said he was praying for me today because he knew that this was a pretty darn big interview to have. And I was really excited about it. And it's because the only way that I can do the things that I do and talk like this and go to different events and like the DeSantis people that I went and talked to that one time, like the only way that I can do things like that is by having such a strong support base of amazing people that are so kind. And I thank each and every one of you guys for any and all of your support that you could possibly give. And it's definitely appreciated when it's in the form of like, subscribe, comment, share, everything like that. So yeah. And you're right, Raven. We are going to come back here soon. You're right. That person was trying to get a response from me. But to an extent, I'm going to give it to them because we need to tell people why they are wrong. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell people why they are wrong because I get these trolls and they oftentimes just say, you're wrong, you're an idiot, you're transphobe, everything under the sun like that. I think that we need to tell people why they are wrong. It is so important because if I just come on here and I say, screw the trolls, you're wrong, then who gets anything out of that? They might still not get anything out of me telling them why they are wrong, but it is so important that we do that. So I'm not going to respond if they just come on here and call me a transphobe. No, I'm not going to do it. But if they come on and say and make some kind of an argument, I'll respond to the argument. And this troll made the argument that there are no biological men in women's sports. Well, you're just blind then. Because a lot of people understand the common sense that there are biological men. Even if you identify as a woman, you can still be a biological man. You are a biological man. But even people that believe in the whole gender ideology understand biological sex. Just be smart. Think a little bit more. We're about to come back here, and I'm going to intro the interview again for everybody on the radio, and then we'll get right back into it. Hey, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9. I am your host, Kev Ferris, and thank you guys so much for joining me. If you're listening on the radio, you could be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. Yes, I am on Rumble. Sorry if that just blew out your speakers in your car, but I am on Rumble too. If you want to be watching me there, you can interact with me. I can interact with you in terms of the comment section. You can always text or call in at 309-451-9299. But let's get back into it. What I've been talking about this hour and what I've had is this last week I had an opportunity to talk with the former collegiate swimmer, NCAA, amazing swimmer Riley Gaines, who swam in the 200-yard freestyle against biological male William Thomas. Changed in the same locker room as the women. And they were forced to accept it by risk of being called transphobic and all that kind of crap. And so I sat down with her. I talked about that. I talked about her activism, and I talked with her about her Ron DeSantis endorsement. We're going to keep going with that interview for the rest of this hour. If you want to watch the whole thing unedited, unabridged, everything like that, go onto my YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Ferris. It will be there at 4 p.m. Everybody, let's keep going with this interview.
Wanted for myself. This is never something that I could have been equipped for. This is something that I was entirely thrusted into. Mm-hmm. And so to be a voice of reason for others, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm continuing to do this. It would be really easy for me to essentially just ride off into the sunset, continue on with the plans that I thought I had pursuing endodontics, which is like root canals. That's what I thought my life was going to look like. Yeah. And it would be really easy for me to do that. But to know that my voice and my courage, I hate to say that this even takes courage, but I understand that it does. Mm-hmm. That my courage and my voice helped Paula find her courage and her voice. It alerts me that courage begets courage, and it's contagious. And I'm certain, I'm confident that more and more women will start speaking about this, using their platforms to talk about this and how it's wrong. That being said, I feel like this conversation very quickly gets centered around women and girls, but men are not clear here either. We need men. We need men to use their voice. We need men with platforms, male athletes, coaches, whatever that looks like, to be willing to boycott, to speak on this as well. We need everyone. Men, women, coaches, medical professionals, parents, all of it.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to get into a lot more of that activism, but I did have one more question regarding Leah Thomas. And this is a big one that a lot of people have talked to me about. And I feel like a lot of people are skeptical of it. Do you actually think that Leah Thomas believes he is a woman? Or do you think he's using womanhood as a costume to get attention and success? I know you can't get into his mind necessarily, but from a personal standpoint, what do you think?
I definitely think there's some delusion there. But in regards to being gender dysphoric, I've really tried to understand this. Obviously, I'm not gender dysphoric. I know I'm a woman. So this is not something I had a great understanding of what it meant to have this, to feel this. And so I've talked with many trans identifying individuals and asked what gender dysphoria is really like. And they all have told me that in regards to a locker room and undressing, being gender dysphoric, you would never undress in front of in a room full of the opposite sex. If you're truly dysphoric about your gender and what, you possess, you would never do that. It's also been confirmed since this meet that Thomas has been engaging in social media posts that claim he is an AGP, which means autogynephiliac, which means you're just sexually aroused as dressing as a woman. And that's a transvestite or cross-dresser. That's not someone who is truly transgender. Yet we were forced to participate in this fetish. That's ultimately what I think this is. Again, I can't get in his brain. I can't understand fully, but based off of the conversations that I've had and the posts and the comments and the likes that Thomas has engaged in, I think there's some speculation to be had.
Absolutely. Well, transitioning from that now onto like the activism portion of your life, because this, like you said, this isn't something you had planned for. It was something you probably never imagined to be a part of. But you now have become, I would say, probably the leading activist in terms of protecting women's sports. And a common question, Matt Walsh got this on Dr. Phil about a year ago, and I think it's really simple, but I love to hear what people have to say. Why do you care? Why does this matter to you?
Why it matters to me, several reasons. The biggest, though, is really not protecting women's sports. It's not really the freedom of speech. Of course, those are pieces of it. But what this is they're asking us to deny objective truth. They're asking us to deny biological reality. They're asking us to deny biblical truth. And that's really chilling to think about. It's as if we're living in this George Orwell dystopian novel. Where they're trying to make us say 2 + 2 is 5, and people are saying it. And if you don't, then you're punished. It's this concept of groupthink, and we're actively leading ourselves in that direction. That's what our administration and our universities and our institutions and the people who lead this country, that's what they want to instill. They want to control our thoughts. They want to control our feelings. They want to control what we say, and that's really scary. You can open any history book and see how that turns out for any other civilization, and it's not pretty. And so I think that, to me, is a big underlying problem of denying objective truth. 2, why this matters to me is I see the value in sports and women playing sports. I saw the benefits that I reaped. I have a little sister, and she's probably all my family. My dad, he played in the NFL. My mom, she played softball. All my family were athletes, and my little sister's probably the best athlete of us all. I'm never going to admit that to her, but I can't imagine her not having the opportunities that I had. And of course, fighting for those past women who fought for Title IX, who fought for me. It only feels right that I fight back for them. In their same lifetime, they saw the benefits of Title IX, and now they're seeing that being taken away.
Absolutely.
And the third thing of why I care, I'll be brief, is being a Christian, I see this as spiritual warfare. And I see, God put us on this planet to communicate his message. And I think that's crucial to do.
I love hearing that, especially when it comes to the faith piece of it. When it comes to your activism now, and I love hearing all of the reasons why you're doing it, but you've now been able to go on to, like I said in the introduction, many different news platforms. You've even been speaking on college campuses. Most recently, I know I heard of multiple news stories, one in Buffalo, New York, in which a protester was arrested for apparent harassment. There was also one that went viral just before that of when you were at San Francisco State University. I have that video of apparently you being held hostage. I want to play that for everybody, and then I'd love to hear kind of a play-by-play of what happened, if that's okay.
And what we're hoping to do is to keep things peaceful and
make her lose her flight
and move forward. Okay. Tell her to pay us. Tell her to pay us, and then she could go. 10 bucks each. Like, because you might get paid for this shit, so we could get paid for it too.
on a public campus that we attend.
So what's the end goal here? We're cooperating, so what's next?
So they need to do their job. We created a path. It's here.
I can't speak to all of you when we're over talking to each other. We're not going to hear each other.
Don't let her hold.
They know. You don't have to use. There's a difference.
So they end up, as you know, they end up getting everybody kind of quieted down, but they're saying that they don't want to let you come home and say that they want to charge them money to allow you out. What was going on here?
First of all, you only see a little clip of this. I endured this for over 3.5 hours of these protesters outside this room, yelling the most hateful, awful, vengeful, violent, terrible things at myself and the officers. They were negotiating money. There were several instances when I could hear them outside the room saying, if you want to make it home safely to see your family again, you have to pay us. it's only fair. You got paid to be here. I think they were under the assumption that the university paid me to be there, which is not true. The university would have paid me probably to not be there. So I think they were under this assumption that I was getting paid, and they said, if you're getting paid to be here, you have to pay us to leave. And the officers in the room, of course, I respect all law enforcement, but these officers did nothing. There has been no action since. There has been no expulsions. There has been no repercussions for anyone involved. Actually, the university doubled down on this stance. Their vice president of student affairs, Dr. Jamila Moore, sent an email out to their student body saying she was so proud. I applaud the bravery of our students who acted so peacefully and protested the personally abhorrent person such as Riley Gaines, who only spreads violence.
Oh my God.
Yes, it was crazy. And to read that, not once did this email say they uphold freedom of speech. Not once did they say they condemn violence against women. That shows you the true direction in which universities and college campuses are going.
And that's also California for you too. California over there, California, whatever. But I would say honestly, the same thing would probably, not the exact same thing, but something similar would happen if you came to Illinois State, where I'm at. So you're right. It is an infection of our college campuses, and a lot of people want to speak out in a similar way that you do, but they fear that retribution. So what do you have to say to those that are sitting at home right now, possibly watching, listening to this interview? And they want to fight just as much, but don't know how to, and are also might lack that courage.
My number one advice is to be bold. I know it can be scary. It is scary, but I have to put it into perspective for myself. Of course, the cancel culture we live in and being labeled any kind of name is scary, but what's scarier is not standing for the truth. That's scarier to me. Mm-hmm. I will say really quickly, there's just a few moments ago, I got off a call with this girl from Illinois, and she called me and she said, I swim for this team. We practice at the YMCA, and we've had this man keep coming into our locker room. And so I went to my coach about it, and he made us think he was doing something to fix the problem. And so, we continued going to the locker room, and every day it kept happening. And so because the coach wasn't really doing anything, she said, myself and my teammates, we got together, we made posters, and these posters just said simple things, protect women's spaces, simple things, and they put them up in the locker room. Mm-hmm. She said the next day she went back to practice. Her coach pulled them all out of the water and said, all the girls, and said, who put those posters in the locker room? And the girl stepped forward and she said, I was a part of it. And he kicked her off the team. And she now is not allowed to compete on that team anymore for wanting to uphold. And again, this girl she's 14 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And right there in Illinois. And I wanted to say that to give you perspective. And she just told me. And this happens all the time
This is something we are going to keep covering on Cities 92.9, a story that I'm still looking more into. A 14-year-old girl in Illinois kicked off her swim team because she, at her YMCA, put up posters that wanted to protect women's spaces because a biological man, was changing in their locker room during their swim practices. I cannot believe it. This is my interview with Riley Gaines, everybody, former NCAA champion swimmer who tied Leah Thomas for the 200-yard freestyle back at the NCAA championships in 2022. Everybody, we're going to keep going with this interview for the rest of the hour. Do not worry. You can watch the full unedited, unabridged video of this interview on my YouTube channel at Speechless with Kev Ferris. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Women's Normal. Hey, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, wherever. I cannot believe the things that Riley Gaines was telling me about this thing in Illinois. Again, it's a story, a touchy story that I'm still covering and trying to learn a little bit more about. I've been talking with Riley post-interview about possibly breaking this story further and getting everything onto record as to what happened at this Illinois YMCA. There is more to cover with Riley, but in the meantime, I am here and I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit more about some of the things that have been discussed. I'm gonna scroll back that interview so we can get some people, so we can make sure anybody listening on the radio is all caught up. Um, we got 12 more minutes in this interview. It's probably going to take us into the next hour. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Another thing I wanted to share too real quick was there is she talked a little bit about her time at the San Francisco State University. And I wanted to bring up the actual statement that was released that actually cited, this is the statement from San Francisco State after Riley Gaines went to their campus, in which the president of the university actually sided with the protesters and everything. So today, San Francisco State finds itself again in the center of a national discussion regarding freedom of speech and expression. Let me begin by saying the trans community is welcome and belongs at SFSU. Further, our community fiercely believes in unity, connection, care, and compassion, and we value different ideas even when they are not our own. Oh, you value them? Okay, well, the San Francisco State is regularly noted as one of the most diverse campuses across the United States. This is what makes us Gators, and this is what makes us great. Diversity promotes critical discussions, new understandings, and enriches the academic experience, but we may also find ourselves exposed to divergent views, and even views we find personally abhorrent. So believing men should not be in women's sports is alluded to as being personally abhorrent. Okay. These encounters have sometimes led to discord, anger, confrontation, and fear. We must meet this moment and unite with a shared value of learning. Thank you to our students who participated peacefully in Thursday's evening's event. It took tremendous bravery to stand in a challenging space. I am proud of the moments where we listed and asked insightful questions. I am also proud of the moments when our students demonstrated the value of free speech and the right to protest peacefully. That's the only free speech she cared about that she mentions, is the protests for it. She doesn't actually talk about the free speech of talking about the men shouldn't be in women's sports. I digress. These issues do not go away, and these values are very much at our core. This feels difficult because it is difficult as you reflect, process, and begin to heal. Because somebody's speaking on something that you disagree with, you need to heal from that. Please remember that there are people, resources, and services available and ready to receive our Gator community, including faculty, staff members, coaches, mentors here to support you. And then they put all these resources there as well. Yes. It is so bad that somebody decided to share an opinion that differs from your own. So abhorrent. So awful. So terrible. What is wrong with these people? Let's go to some comments here. Awesome. Thank you, Modern Renaissance Man, for pushing this video and this interview out. Everybody, remember at 4 p.m., so 7 minutes from now, the full, unabridged, unedited interview will be on my YouTube channel with Riley Gaines, the former NCAA championship swimmer. If you've been watching so far, amazing interview. Very articulate, as my good friend Pam on Facebook said. She's very articulate, and she talked about being in spiritual warfare. Yes, please stay tuned. She does talk a little bit more about her faith as it relates to swimming and her activism and everything. So I think it's really important to talk about that. And I see that you're asking me to pin something. I can't pin stuff necessarily from where I'm at right now. We're about to come back live on the radio, but I'll try to figure it out because I'm on StreamYard. I don't have my YouTube live open because I'm making sure that everybody can see this on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, everywhere. But we're coming back live now. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Kev Ferris, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. Everything that we've been going through this last hour has been my interview with Riley Gaines, the former NCAA champion, 12-time All-American swimmer who had to swim against a biological man, William Thomas, most commonly referred to as Leah Thomas in the public sphere, transgender swimmer, who seems to think that there is no biological advantage because she's a biological man. There's no biological advantage of a transgender athlete in women's sports, which we all know is absolute crap. But Riley keeps talking about her activism and everything that she's been going through. I'm going to keep playing this interview. It probably will carry on a little bit into the second hour. Keep watching, everybody. This interview is amazing. And here is more of that.
YMCA, and we've had this man keep coming into our locker room. And so I went to my coach about it, and he made us think he was doing something to fix the problem. And so, we continued going to the locker room, and every day it kept happening. And so because the coach wasn't really doing anything, she said, myself and my teammates, we got together, we made posters, and these posters just said simple things, protect women's spaces, simple things, and they put them up in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
She said the next day she went back to practice. Her coach pulled them all out of the water and said, all the girls, and said, who put those posters in the locker room? And the girl stepped forward and she said, I was a part of it. And he kicked her off the team. And she now is not allowed to compete on that team anymore for wanting to uphold. And again, this girl she's 14 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And right there in Illinois. And I wanted to say that to give you perspective. And she just called me. And this happens all the time where I'm getting calls like this. And so again, my advice, be bold, be like that girl from Illinois, make noise, ruffle feathers, step on toes. And I know, especially as Christians, we want to be peacemakers. We want to respond with empathy and have compassion. Of course we do. And that's what our God tells us to do. But he also hates sin. And what's happening right now is really, it's an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our job to call out something when it's unjust. And what's happening is entirely unjust to women. Be bold. Know how your state stands too. I think that's really important. There have been 22 states thus far that have passed some sort of fairness in women's sports bill. Of course, that means the majority of states have not. Know where your state stands. Contact your legislator or your state senator, and let them know how you feel. Let them know that this is important to you, their constituents. And my message to parents is to defend your daughters and to teach your sons masculinity. There's this saying, and it's hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. And it's the cycle, and it's actually pretty interesting. You can look and see how that's played out throughout history. And I think we're in this time period of weak men creating hard times, which we can only hope that means hard times create strong men, but we need parents to teach masculinity again.
We can only hope. You're right. And speaking of strong men, switching gears a lot, but recently it was big news. You endorsed Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, for president for 2024. This is obviously a divisive topic, even among just the right. And not that you're shy from divisive topics by any means, but can you tell me a little bit more about what led to that decision to endorse Governor Ron DeSantis?
Absolutely. It took a lot of thinking. It took a lot of praying. Did I want to involve myself in this capacity? I knew what it meant. I knew, especially in a primary as heated as this one, where there's so much at stake because really our country is on the line. I knew what this meant. But ultimately, I came to the conclusion that this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I care about. Therefore, I want to do everything in my power to make sure we get the person in office, especially in regards to these cultural issues that are plaguing our country. We need a person in office who will draw the line and who will say enough is enough. That's the leadership we need, especially, again, in comparison to what we have now, who can't even define what a woman is. Thinking that, understanding that, and seeing the success that Governor DeSantis has had in Florida surrounding these issues, whether that be within the education system, whether that be, of course, in regards to women's sports, whatever that looks like, he has said enough is enough. And he's handled it with grace. He's handled it with such success. And everyone in his state values him for it. I shouldn't say everyone. Majority of his state values him for that. And people are flocking to Florida.
People are flocking to Florida, and everybody, we are coming up against the end of the first hour of the show. In the next hour, as we finish up the Riley Gaines interview that I had earlier this week, she will answer the question, why did she not endorse Trump? Why was it DeSantis over Trump? She answers that question and more in the next hour of Speechless. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in on the radio. You could also be watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, and you'll be hearing me. I give a little bit more commentary on this and some other stories in the next hour. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okay, guys, so just now is when this interview actually went live. If you want to go watch the whole thing, I'll post the link right here. And thank you for anybody's watching on Modern Renaissance Man's channel too. I mean, thank you so much. What would really be appreciated if you guys could go and like, subscribe, and share to Speechless with Kev Ferris, my channel. I'll make sure I put my banner back up at the top there. But I'd really appreciate it because we got to keep supporting all these kinds of things. But we will be back in the next hour with the rest of that interview and some more commentary. Like I said, I'm going to put in now the comment section the link to the full interview if you'd like to go watch that. Obviously, I'd love if you guys could stay in here. But I get it. It's a great interview, and I wanted to put it up as soon as possible, pretty much as soon as most of it was aired on this live stream. So here is full interview. Here's that right there. Now I'll get to some comments. I got kind of a longer break here, probably about 5